I'm so happy that you're here. I'm the Executive Artistic Director of Project Alchemy, so welcome. This is our 5th year as a nonprofit international downtown dance company here in St. Pete. So woo 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 for us, celebrating 5 years in October. You can clap if you want.
I am a black, gay, queer male who's polyamorous. I was always a little queer boy because I would try to get the biggest shirts so that I could spin around and see it puff up, kind of like the A-line dresses, and I would always try to make an A-line dress out of a t-shirt and a belt, and it never would work. My mom got the 1993 Nutcracker New York City Ballet with Macaulay Culkin. I saw the 2 black people in the show, and I said, oh, that could be me. I didn't do ballet because I had been teased about ballet being a sissy sport. Not even a sport. I consider it a sport, but it was just something that sissies would do. Like, guys don't do that. So then I didn't do it. But I did jazz because it was, I guess, a little less. Shows you how heteronormative thinking is. Sometimes things will hit me because I'm black before they hit me because I'm gay or queer, right? Or some things will hit me because I'm gay and queer before they hit me that I'm black.
Devastating reality that this shooting is now the deadliest in U.S. history.
25-year-old Amanda Alvear, who took that ominous Snapchat after first shots were fired.
A volley of gunshots in the night, carnage mounting inside, the injured on the ground outside.
Nobody wants to be in.
Terror unfolded, officers exchanging gunfire with
Minute
the suspect,
Justice,
and then
son
making
Eddie
a
was
daring
trapped
rescue.
inside
This
with the
morning, more
gunman,
than 40
sending
people
those
are
text
covering up
messages, waiting and agonizing 24 hours in limbo to hear about her only child, Today, learning he is among the fallen. No parent should hear.
My husband and I had just finished something in Lakeland, and we were going to go to Pulse the evening of the shooting. We lived 20 minutes away from Pulse, and on the drive there decided to go home. Like, I woke up to it. My husband was already awake, so he was in the living room watching it happen. People were calling him, people were calling me, and then it was like throughout the day seeing people check in, and it was like, I was just at work with you. I was just at work with you. I just saw you, last night at this thing, like, or I saw you a couple of days ago, like, and then also not knowing about a friend that was there, like, had no clue that that was a place that he frequented, and then people were like, we can't find him. And I was like, oh, and we had done Harambe Nights Festival, or Lion King Festival in the Wild together. And so my last time seeing him was at that event. I never saw him again. It was a hate crime, and also it was a hate crime on, like, people of color. So that was Latin night. That hits different. Not that it should in any other way, but, like, I'm a person of color. You know what I mean? I'm a black and brown person. So that's me. I actually could have been there. That's me. Prior to that, the closest thing that I could think of a shooting in that area was Trayvon Martin in Sanford. And I remember when that shooting happened, the Trayvon Martin shooting, because of my upbringing of being in white spaces, I did not immediately equate that was my body, even though I wear hoodies all the time. Probably had experienced some issues of racism, but, like, because of my mindset at the time, either blocked it out or did not identify. So it wasn't until Pulse that things clicked. It was very clear to me, I think, sitting in a parking lot at the time working at Lululemon, and I was going to go get out of my car and A security guard walked by with a gun in his pocket. And I was like, shit, I could die right now. I think that's when I realized it was like, hey, you could die because you're black. And then it was my husband coming into Lululemon, kissing me just to check on me that day. And I was like, hey, you could die because you're gay. Me talking, I can't hide my inflection. I can't hide my mannerisms. I've actually tried, right? I probably could, in the same way that I can't wash the black off my skin. 2018 was my first time being in Europe, and I'm walking the streets and people are noticing me because I'm an American, but not because I'm a black American in the same way that I am noticed here. And being able to walk by a police officer and them not look at you as you're a threat was a very weird experience. Like, I felt invisible. Invisible in a way that does not cause me harm, versus here where sometimes I feel invisible because either my voice isn't being heard or something else, which does cause harm. And I remember coming back here, and the first thing I said when I got off the plane was, I'm back to the land of the judgment. I mean, I'm still judged for being black, definitely judged for being gay. So, and even weirdly enough, judged for being polyamorous within my own community. Wow. Dance for me is like any language, right? Like speaking. It is a form of communication. So, and it's also a form of working through things. Just like you talk through things, just like you write things down. Sometimes you have to, like, us moving in the world, picking things up, putting it down, having interactions with people, like, it's all embodiments. All of those things that I've learned within the dance studio, the flexibility piece, the resilience piece, the perseverance piece, right? All of these, like, sometimes they feel like fluff words, right? Or these intangibles, but I think that those are the things that I latch onto because it's such a part of also who I am. Those are the things that help me to navigate the world. I've been someone who has taught dance in 3 capacities, one in the studio, one for middle school, and then, you know, currently as a adjunct college professor. My initial reaction when I heard about the Don't Say Gay legislation, I was not surprised. I was not surprised. I do remember thinking about my nephews because all 3 of them are half black, half white. They're all mixed. And I was like, so this is gonna affect them when they start talking about their uncles and they can't talk about their uncles.
The Florida law critics dub the Don't Say Gay bill is expanding.
Gender ideology has no place in our K through 12 school system, and we've made that very, very clear.
Florida's Board of Education agreed to ban classroom instruction about sexual orientation and gender identity in all grades. Teachers who violate the ban risk having their licenses revoked.
this goes into emboldening an ideology, and if there's anything that's harder to fight, it's ideology. Because as long as one person believes, the ideology continues. We've all seen Peter Pan, and it's the moment where Tinkerbell almost dies, and we have to clap to make her come back, right? And it's everybody having to believe in that thing. Tinkerbell essentially is ideology. We all have to believe in that ideology, and then it'll bring her back to life. That is the same thing that's happening with all of this legislation. It's all of this very radical religious and conservative viewpoints on how bodies should be. I left McLaughlin in the same way that I am now, transitioning out of teaching at the University of Tampa, because my heart was no longer in it anymore. It's hard for me to make a work and not have all the other versions of me or parts of me also be in the room at the same time. Because my work is very much based off of the life that I've lived. And it's not so much that I don't love working with students. I think there's a level of working with students that I can do within my nonprofit organization that's outside of academia. We can have different conversations. For Project Alchemy, it's literally like embedded into the work. It's pretty much a queer nonprofit. Queering to me is looking at alternative ways to live, right? Queering for me is looking at all possibilities. Queering for me is expressing yourself authentically outside of the norms that have been already predestined for you. I think in terms of current legislation, I think I continue to make my work and I keep an eye on what's going on. The rewriting of history is scary. The emboldenment of someone's religion really being the hindrance of a person being able to do this thing or that thing. The erasure of people is scary. It's very scary. And I've talked about this with my husband, and I'm like, I think what's happening here is a small dose of what potentially could happen to the rest of the country, which sounds like super dramatic and also not completely out of reach. There's a large part of me that if I could move out of the country at any point, I would. And so I think communication's key, and I hope that maybe there is something that sparks that level of communication throughout our country, so that you're not demonized for having the ideology, but maybe we can talk about where that ideology is coming from, and so that we can recognize that this person is seeing this moment this way, and this person is seeing this moment this way. See the differences and maybe also find the similarities between us. I think as kumbaya as it sounds, I feel like that's the only way that things are going to change. My line in this war, or whatever it is that we want to call it, the social war, is not being on the front lines. And that's okay. I think my art it does enough, and I want to be able to continue to do that because I feel like that's a way that I make a difference and I spark conversation for change. But I also have to take care of myself, which means I may have to not be here so that I can come back later. Maybe that's me walking away from UT right now as a way to know that, like, in this moment, you're not doing good in this current space, so you need to leave, and then maybe you can come back to it later, or maybe you never come back to it, and that's also okay.